everyone and welcome to my Q&A vlog. It has been quite a while since I've done a Q&A vlog and a lot has happened since I did my last Q&A vlog. So of course a lot of these questions are about IVF. I think pretty much all of them are about pregnancy and IVF. Interesting. I haven't really looked over the questions. I've just kept, as they've popped up, I've added them to my list, so I haven't had a chance to really think them over. But if I really need to think about it, I will just pause and think about it and then I'll edit it out. So of course, most of you know that we just did IVF and that the cycle was cancelled, and I've had so many comments and just a whole lot of support. It's been amazing. I've had one YouTube friend start up a funding, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a funding site anyway where people can donate money towards medical things, and so she set it up for my IVF, which was really sweet. And I also had someone else on YouTube who isn't even a subscriber of mine really generously donate $1,500 to me. Like, I was just like, my jaw hit the ground. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is a scam, this isn't real, because they just private messaged me and was like, I want to help you, you know, and I was just like, whatever. But they were for real, so I'm just incredibly grateful. Like, I could not believe it. So I will be sending them a little gift, and also just thanks to the other person that's donated as well. I'm just so grateful. I cannot believe it at all. So I couldn't believe it. But yeah, so we'll get started. The first question is, I would like to know how you're feeling with yourself. Happy, sad, nervous, anxious? I'm sure we'd all like to know how you're feeling. Well, considering I've just had a miscarriage and a IVF cycle fail, I'm feeling pretty darn good. I don't know if you've noticed, but I get over things pretty darn quickly, and I don't know, it just makes me feel better in myself when I get over things quickly. You know, it doesn't mean to say that I don't ever think about my miscarriage. It doesn't mean to say I never think about what if with this recent IVF cycle that was cancelled. It's always at the back of my mind going, oh, I would have been 14 weeks pregnant today, and you know, I could have had my egg collection today, and so I still think about it. I don't erase those memories, but I move on from them very quickly, and I just think, I think that God has chosen me to go through this whole infertility thing, to have everything that I've had happen with miscarriages and cancelled cycles and OHSS and all of that stuff. I just think that everything that happens gives me a new look on things, and it means that I can also relate to a wider range of people. Now I can relate to women who have had a miscarriage. I can now relate to women who have had IVF cycles cancelled. I can relate to people who get OHSS. And if I hadn't had any of these things, I wouldn't be making these videos. I wouldn't have anyone to tell about it, to give my experience, to give my advice, support, whatever. So I think that I was chosen to go on this journey because God knew that I was strong enough to be able to handle the bad things that come along. I'm not going to get depressed. I'm not going to commit suicide. I'm not going to get down in the dumps. Life is too cool to be sad. I don't know. I just feel like every time I wake up in the morning, even when Roman is in a completely grumpy mood and I haven't had much sleep and I'm a grump too, I can't help but think, man, I'm so grateful to be alive. You know, like, infertility really sucks. It does, but I'm just so grateful that I'm alive, that I have a house, I have a husband, I have a car, and I do have one successful IVF cycle that gave me a son. And so I'm just so grateful and so happy for that. And I'm just willing to do whatever I can to have another baby, but without putting us into huge financial debt and drive myself mental. You know, because it is a lot on your body when you're pumping yourself full of drugs and things like that. But yeah, I don't know, I just find it a lot easier to be happy than it is to be sad. It takes a lot less effort, and so I am perfectly happy right now. I'm in a really good space, and yeah, so life's going really good despite what has happened this year so far. And just a little side note on that too, someone did ask me how I cope or how I stay so positive. And I have a lot of coping strategies that I use to keep myself happy and carrying on, and so I will be doing a separate video on that because I think it's actually really important, and I would love to give everyone my tips on how I keep positive and just carrying on. So I look out for that, and maybe a couple of weeks time I'll get that done and uploaded. Next question, I want to know your experience with the public system versus the private system. To be honest, other than the fact that money comes out of my bank account, there hasn't been a lot of difference. You would think because you're paying you have a lot more say in things, but that's really not the case. What they do is they just basically try and do whatever is safest and what is going to be most effective. So regardless of whether you're in the public system or you're paying, they would generally pretty much be doing the same thing. The only thing I'd say would be different when you're going private is that they will absolutely try and make sure that they give you the right amount of drugs so you're not paying so much. But to be honest, because I've done both private and public funding, I haven't noticed any difference. I mean, there is a waiting list with public of course, of about a year to 2 years, whereas public you can pretty much start right away. This question is, what is your biggest fear about having twins? Interesting question, because a lot of you know that I don't want twins and I would probably be one of the few infertiles out there. It's like a helicopter going past. I'd be one of the few infertiles out there that wouldn't be too impressed if they found out they were having twins. And that is only because I know that your body is only designed to carry one baby. And the fact that I got so sick with Roman, and I'm not just talking morning sickness, I'm talking about the preeclampsia, the hypertension, you know, like they induced Roman 3 weeks early because my blood pressure was so high that I was at risk of having a stroke. So twins, I presume, would just make that extra worse, and that they would be born really early and that they would have health problems. I just want one very healthy baby. The other reason why I don't want twins is because, I don't know, I think it's selfish in that I like to have just that one-on-one time with just one child, and I've had lots of time with Roman, so I'm very lucky in that. And also the fact that this infertility journey is going on a lot longer than I expected. He's obviously going to be a lot older sibling. If things work out the way they are, hopefully he will have a sibling by the time he's 3.5. Hopefully by the time he's 4 we will have some sort of action going on, but we'll see. But yeah, I just think it's a lot of stress on your body, on your mind, on sleep and finances to have twins. I know people think having twins is really cute because you can dress them up in similar things, and just the fact that having 2 kids at once is kind of special. But for me personally, I just want one baby at a time. If I were to have twins, you just get over it, you know, it's happened, there's nothing you can do. And of course I would be really blessed to have 2 babies, but if I had the choice I would only have one at a time. I want to know if you use gonal F injections with orgalutran together, which one is first? Well, at first you use the gonal F and then you start using the orgalutran and the gonal F at the same time, because the gonal F is obviously FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, so it's getting those follicles growing, but then towards the end of it you need to start taking the orgalutran because that's what stops you from ovulating early. So I presume you don't take it the whole time with the gonal F because you don't need to, because those follicles aren't going to actually ovulate an egg until they reach a mature size. So that's why I presume you don't have to take the orgalutran, because it's just wasted money, because you don't need to take it if you're not going to ovulate them. And then when they're getting to that more mature size and the risk of them actually ovulating out before you even have your IVF, your egg collection I should say, that's when you need to start taking the orgalutran to stop them from ovulating. What was the worst, most painful? OHSS or giving birth? To what length would you go to have more children? So 2 questions there. OHSS or giving birth? Interesting. Okay, so OHSS is painful. There's different like some people get it really mild and some people get it really bad. They keep telling me mine was mild, but it didn't feel bloody mild to me. It hurt so bad. What happened was that my body filled up with fluid, so by the end of it I had put on 15 kilos worth of fluid, and my stomach was just huge. Like, all of it was sitting in my abdomen, some of it was in my lungs. I couldn't breathe. I was on oxygen because I just couldn't breathe from the fact that there was fluid in my lungs and just the weight pressing on my lungs. I'll even put in a picture of my belly and you'll see how hard it would have been for me to breathe. So I was on oxygen, I was on morphine because it hurt so bad. I was in hospital for 8 days in the end, just for pain relief and being monitored and waiting for that fluid to come out and just making sure that it didn't get worse. It was incredibly painful. Labour, it kind of gradually gets more painful. With OHSS it was just like I woke up one morning, like I'd been uncomfortable, but I woke up one morning and I was just like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. I am going to die. Whereas labour, it came on gradually, and even though I had I was induced, so I had to have syntocin, pitocin, whatever it's called, to get my labour started, which some people say is kind of worse. But yeah, so the labour gradually started. I got some period pains, and then I'd have a contraction, it would hurt, and the next one wouldn't be so bad, and then it kind of would drag on. I think the worst thing about the labour is the lack of sleep. Like, you're just so exhausted. I did get woken up quite a bit for OBS with the OHSS, but morphine made me sleep a lot. It just made me so woozy and drowsy that I went to sleep. So with labour, I think the pain is actually pretty similar what I experienced, but just that labour was over in a short amount of time, and the OHSS took like 8 days of me being in hospital before I could not be on morphine anymore. So I guess in that respect OHSS is worse. Labour's over quicker, but then I had stitches, so that hurt, and that lasted a while till they... Wow, I wouldn't be able to say one or the other is worse. They are both really bad, but they both had kind of pros and cons to them. Either way, OHSS sucked and I got nothing out of it, and birth sucked, but I got my baby out of it. What lengths would I go to have more children? I really want another baby. I really want another child. I really want Roman to have a sibling. I really want a little girl. I really want a little girl so bad. So I think Martin and I would go to great lengths to have another baby. I don't... If IVF is unsuccessful, and we are really running out of money, or can't get out another bank loan, I think we would go back to trying like the Clomid, the IUI. We've never done an IUI, so maybe even an IUI, because conception seems to happen in the lab with IVF. Like, our embryos fertilise, and when they put them back in me, I get pregnant. Maybe my cervical mucus is like killing off all of Martin's sperm or something. I don't know. I just feel like because I got pregnant before and IVF has worked for us, that I would probably go to great lengths to have another baby, because it's happened before, so it has to happen again. It has to happen again. I don't know. I think I would go to I would go to great lengths to have another baby. Would I adopt though? Probably not. Adoption isn't so straightforward in New Zealand. You can't just go sign your name up and put in a cute little portfolio and have someone pick you. I'm pretty sure it's not like that in New Zealand. I think it's more like when kids get taken by like SIFs, or I think adoption, like at birth, is really rare. They try and put them in with their own family, like an aunt or an uncle or grandparents or something like that. So adoption is actually kind of rare in New Zealand, so I wouldn't even pursue it, to be honest, or even foster families. I think if it's all gonna fail, we would just stick to Roman. I'm hoping it's not going to come to that, but at the end of the day I will just stick to Roman and probably not adopt or anything like that. So Roman will just be one spoiled only child. What did you respond to before going through IVF? We did Clomid, and I was on 50 milligrams of Clomid on my very first cycle, and I ovulated on cycle day 18, and I got a BFN, and then that was it. I did 6 other rounds of Clomid, bumping them up to 100 milligrams, and I had absolutely no ovulation whatsoever, which is really bizarre. And then we did Paragon, and we did 6 cycles of that. Only 4 of them actually made it to trigger injection because 2 of them were cancelled because once again I grew too many follicles, for goodness sake. Cannot believe it. So we did like 70 units of, I think someone said they're called international units of Paragon. First cycle BFN, second cycle BFN, third cycle BFN, fourth cycle BFN, no, fourth cycle chemical pregnancy I should say, and then 2 cycles that were cancelled because I grew too many follicles. So the Paragon did work for me in recruiting follicles. I just never got pregnant, which makes me wonder if, I'm actually being serious, I wonder if my cervical mucus is all like acidic from all the drugs and stuff. Maybe I've just got like psycho CM and it goes, attack the sperm. Next question, have you ever thought about surrogacy if IVF doesn't work? Interesting. No, I don't think I've never thought about surrogacy because I haven't had a problem in carrying my own child. Like Roman, I carried him, and like I said with IVF our sperm and eggs fertilise and we get embryos. So obviously the problem is with all the other drugs is that they don't actually even fertilise, although I did have that one chemical pregnancy. My doctor said that I've probably got unexplained infertility because it's just, you know, I get pregnant and then I lose it, and then I had a miscarriage and then I lost it, but then when we do everything naturally it doesn't work. My body is so confusing. I would love to be a surrogate for someone else. I've always loved being pregnant. I would just want to be pregnant all the time, even though I had a pretty crappy time with Roman's pregnancy. But no. If it meant that I knew that I was going to have another baby, maybe I would consider it. But yeah, I would, you know, you have to advertise for them here. You can't pay surrogates here or anything. So then you have to, you know, you have to put an ad out there and you have to try and find someone. I guess it depends on how desperate I am. I mean, I would try anything to have another baby. And I guess I wouldn't know until that time came and how desperate I was. Another kind of twin question. Will you accept transferring more than one embryo to increase your chances of pregnancy? No, I will not. Unless it's a really cruddy embryo, and like my clinic only allows single embryo transfers if you've got good embryos and you're under the age of 38. If you're over the age of 38 and your embryos are pretty cruddy, then they will put like 2 or 3 back in. But because I'm young, because my embryo is good, they're just like, no, single embryo transfer 100%. And I completely wholeheartedly agree with that. Martin would love to have twins, but then he gets to go off to work and, you know, teach and sit down and have his lunch and be able to pee without someone knocking on the door and sticking their fingers under the door and screeching at you. So I'm quite happy with a single embryo transfer. If when you have IVF again, will they do anything differently? Yes, they will probably lower the dose of Paragon or Gonal F. They don't want to lower it too much because it can probably make a big difference, but they will probably be lowering the dose and maybe even doing long protocol again, because that's the protocol that we were successful in. Also, have you tried IUI, or does that not work for your body because of PCOS? No, I've never done IUI, and the only reason being that my doctor didn't suggest it to me. I want to know how you stay so positive, I will be doing that in a completely different vlog. How many children would you have if you didn't have infertility? That is all dependent upon their gender. So if the next baby is a boy, I would want to try for a third to see if it's a girl. If the third is a boy and I've got 3 boys, this isn't a perfect world, who's to know if I even get another kid. So if I have 3 boys, I would be tempted, depending on our situation, to try for a fourth to see if it was a girl. If the fourth was not a girl, that's it. I am capped absolutely 100% at 4. I don't even really want 4, but if it was to try and get a girl, then I would have 4, but I don't really want 4. Okay, so if the second one is a girl, we have Roman, and the second one, which is a little girl, then I am going to be so content, and if we had any more after that, it would be just a complete blessing. I would probably want to try for a third, depending on the circumstances once again. I think 3 is a nice number for children, but I would be content with 2 if it was a boy and a girl. Do you feel it's important for Roman to know he was made by IVF? Absolutely, 100%. I think it is such an important part of mine and Martin's lives, and also now Roman's life. It's a really special way to come into the world, and we want him to know that he was really wanted and really loved before he was even conceived. I think it's really special. I would never want to hide the fact that he was an IVF baby. I mean, I have a t-shirt that says IVF bum on that. I flaunt it everywhere. I love that I got to do IVF. It's amazing. And I just think it's super, super special. And I can't wait for Roman to understand that he was awesomely made. I can't wait for him to go off to school and say, I'm an IVF baby. And no one will have a clue. These kids will be like, what the heck are you on about? I want him to be proud of it as well. I want him to tell other people about it. I think it's just bringing down another generation of not being ashamed of how you came into the world. Just like with birth, epidural, no epidural, natural birth or cesarean. You know, I just want them to know that no matter how they came into this world, they are so special, and Roman is just an absolute blessing, and I love that he was conceived through IVF, and I'm really, really proud of it. And the lucky last question is a super easy one. What country do you live in? I live in New Zealand. Comment below if you've ever been to New Zealand or even know where New Zealand is, and if you've only ever heard of New Zealand because of The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings. We are so much more than that. We are so much more than that. We are like the most laid back, cruisy country ever. Like, I watch like Hottest Home Baker. It's like this baking competition, and the contestants on it are so nice. And I was saying to Martin, you know what? If that was in America or even Australia, like My Kitchen Rules or Hell's Kitchen and all that jazz overseas, they're all ruthless with each other. And in New Zealand, they're all like, hey, how are you doing? Do you need a hand? Can I give you some tips? And I'm just like, what the heck? So we're a really cruisy, laid back country. Love my country. I don't think I'll ever leave here. It's gorgeous. Yeah, we're a super cool country. Alright guys, that's the end of my question and answer vlog. If I missed anything out, or if you have a really quick question, just put in the comments. Excuse me. Just put it, oh, that's jelly coming up. I'm doing Weight Watchers at the moment, and jelly's only worth 1 point, so that's awesome. If you have a quick question, just put it in the comments below, and I will answer it in the comments below as well. My next vlog might possibly be the how I cope with IVF. I will see how I go.